It's Friday, April 23rd, and this is now on H&N.
We have received almost 50,000 doses, Johnson & Johnson doses, to date.
We've got breaking news. CDC advisors recommend resuming the use of the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine.
I want answers.
The widow of a man fatally shot by police in Oahu files a wrongful death suit.
And unfortunately, that money is gone.
The state's unemployment office is warning about a new scam.
I think you just got to use common sense here.
These stories plus, do you still need to be wearing the mask outside? We'll talk about it coming up on This Is Now. Good afternoon, thanks for watching This Is Now. We got Mark in for Ashley today, and we are still awaiting those latest coronavirus numbers from the State Department of Health. As soon as we get them in, we'll pass them along to you. But first, we do have some breaking news, right?
Yes,
Mark?
a U.S. health panel is urging the restarting of the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccinations. Deborah Alfarone has more from outside the FDA.
The motion carries.
A CDC advisory committee has voted in favor of resuming emergency use of the one-dose Johnson & Johnson vaccine for all Americans 18 years and older.
Lifting the pause on J&J's vaccine is in the best public health interest of the U.S. population.
Pause was initiated last week after 6 reports of rare and severe blood clots. One case resulted in the death of a 45-year-old Virginia woman. During Friday's meeting, panel experts heard about more possible cases, including one Oregon woman in her 50s who died.
Vast majority of patients have a headache. More severely affected patients can have seizures.
FDA officials say they'll continue working with the CDC to monitor the vaccine for more cases and update the guidance as more information comes to light. Vaccine eligibility in the U.S. was expanded to all adults 16 and older. And now the CDC recommends pregnant women get Pfizer or Moderna vaccines after publishing a study in the New England Journal of Medicine.
No safety concerns were observed for people vaccinated in the third trimester or safety concerns for their babies.
Administration health officials are also launching a new social media campaign to combat vaccine hesitancy, pairing doctors and scientists with celebrities and professional athletes. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, Silver Spring, Maryland.
So what does this new guidance mean for the supply of J&J vaccines here on the islands? Here's what local health experts had to say just a short time ago.
We have received almost 50,000 doses, Johnson & Johnson doses, to date in the state of Hawaii. We actually only administered approximately 50% of those. So we have probably 20-some thousand doses sitting in refrigerators right now across the state. Now they're being, they're in refrigeration, they're safe, they have a good shelf life, and we don't know what the supply is going to be going forward, but the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a very effective vaccine, and it's, again, a lot of people are looking for it, and it's great for people who may be homebound, people in rural communities, people who live in areas where there's transportation issues.
The widow of the man shot by police in Nu'uanu has filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the city and the officers involved. Allison Blair has the details.
Lindsay Miani says she's suing because she hasn't gotten more information from HPD about the moments leading up to her husband's death. The shooting happened a week ago Wednesday after a report of a burglary in progress at a home that's advertised as an Airbnb. Details about what happened before police arrived and whether there was ever a burglary still aren't clear. On Friday, HPD released footage from 2 of the 3 officers' body cameras, each showing about 50 seconds of video.
I want information from my piece. I want the 911 tapes. I want the unedited footage.
We have asked for the full 911 tapes. We have asked for the computer-assisted dispatch tapes that show what the police officers were saying to each other and to the dispatchers. We have asked for the complete body cam tapes, not just the 50 seconds that HPD chose to show. And it has been, as some of my friends say, crickets.
The lawsuit claims race influenced the people who called 911 to report Miani was in the house and the officers' response to him when they arrived. It also alleges Miani likely thought he was being attacked and responded by throwing punches at police.
It's not a racial thing. It's a behavior thing. It's what the suspect chose to do to force our officers' hand. They fought for their lives, and you know that's the ultimate thing that no officer wants to do, is take another's life. And that decision with them is going to last them the rest of their life.
Miani is from South Africa. His wife says they just moved to Hawaii in January and live 5 blocks away from where he was killed. It's still unclear why Miani went to that home. There's a temple on the neighboring property, but the attorney confirmed today that the 29-year-old had never been there. Bickerton also mentioned the family could be filing a second lawsuit in the coming days if HPD doesn't return some of Miani's personal belongings, things like his wedding ring and cell phone. Allison Blair, Hawaii News Now.
Outcry from the legal community as HPD defends its decision to not release body cam footage of the fatal shooting of a teenager. HPD says they will not make public the videos from the April 5th shooting of 16-year-old I Remember Sycamp in McCully. The police chief said Sycamp was in a stolen car with other teens when he rammed patrol vehicles after a chase and crime spree. But HPD did release the body cam footage from last week in Nu'uanu. Authorities are citing juvenile justice privacy laws, but former judges, prosecutors, and defense attorneys say it can be done. Here's what defense attorneys Jackie Esser and Megan Coe had to say.
Blur out the faces or redact anything that is confidential to the other juvenile. So there is ways around that. If that truly is in fact why they are deciding not to release it, but it doesn't pass the smell test.
They released the Nu'uanu shooting, so they should release the Kalakaua shooting. If you're going to do it once, you have to do it all the time.
HPD says the department is still considering releasing the footage after the criminal case involving the other teens is complete.
The Justice Department says it expects to charge more than 500 people for taking part in the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. So far, 440 people have been charged, the majority of whom are facing lower-level offenses. A few dozen others are facing more serious charges of assaulting police officers or damaging government property. Prosecutors have also filed conspiracy charges against members of the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. They're accused of playing a more central role in planning and leading the Capitol siege or encouraging others to join it. Investigators are still searching for whoever planted 2 pipe bombs at the national offices of the Democratic and Republican parties the night before the riots.
The state says a Kahului church cluster linked to 90 infections since early March is now under control with no active cases. But members of the King's Cathedral are still upset the health department made the rare decision to publicly name the church last month. The state asked them to halt all gatherings, but church leaders declined and maintained they were following CDC guidelines. Even after the caseload dropped, the church administrator says they were stigmatized. Here's Kelly Davison, King's Cathedral Chapel Administrator.
People that would wear a shirt and go across the community was asked, hey, do you go to that church? And was very hesitant on allowing them into restaurants, into businesses and locations. We are operating in a safe environment. We are considered an essential institution where we need to remain open to help provide food, services, and hope and prayer for the community of Maui.
In the particular case of King's Cathedral and Chapel, we found cases in multiple locations, not just the Kahului Cathedral. So those are all being lumped together.
And that was Dr. Sarah Kemble, the acting state epidemiologist. The state unemployment office is warning of a new scam targeting claimants. Here's Casey Lund.
Good afternoon. Yesterday, the DLIR announcing a new way that scammers are trying to take advantage of the system and unemployment claimants. Take a look. Essentially, an email and a text message, both of them say that you have unclaimed benefits and that you need to click a link to resolve the issue. DLIR warns that when you click that link, you're putting your account information at risk. But today we wanted to have a larger conversation about fraud. So joining us now from Washington, D.C. is Haywood Talcove. He's CEO of LexisNexis Risk Solutions Government Group, dealing with some of the nation's top financial institutions as well as unemployment systems around the country. Haywood, I want to get right to it and ask you, what went wrong early on in this pandemic when our unemployment system was absolutely overwhelmed with fraud, and that in turn delayed a lot of legitimate claims being processed?
Yeah, so what happened was our country, including the state of Hawaii, was attacked by 3 transnational criminal groups. Those groups are located in China, Russia, and Nigeria. And what they took advantage of was the unemployment insurance integrity programs not being focused on imposter fraud. And as a result, as of today, at least $200 billion has gone to these 3 transnational criminal groups to be used for a series of illicit activities.
How do we prevent this?
Yeah, it's really simple. And the thing is, in 5 days, the state of Hawaii can fix the problem. Just think about the tools that you use with your bank. Think about when you're using e-retailers. All of those financial institutions, all of those companies have a filter in place to stop identity fraud, right? Although the fraudsters are very sophisticated, the fraud that they're conducting has been stopped 10 years ago. So what I would encourage the governor, what I would encourage the director to do is go take a look at what the financial institutions are doing. Go take a look at what the e-retailers are doing. You can get that system bolted on in 5 days. And not only are you stopping the fraud, you're protecting and securing the homeland by making sure these organized criminal groups don't have access to these funds.
Is there any recourse, now that those are international criminal organizations, you say, is there any recourse for us to recover any of that money, or are we pretty much past that point?
Yeah, I was with a governor yesterday, and he asked me that same question. And unfortunately, that money is gone. It's not worth trying to go and get it. It's not even in this country anymore. So the thing that you have to do is you have to stop it at the front end. And just one really quick tip for consumers, if for some reason you get a 1099-G form in the mail that says that you received an unemployment benefit and you didn't, immediately call your local police department, contact your Department of Revenue, the IRS, and have the credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, put a freeze in your account.
Haywood, thank you so much for your time. Again, those most recent scans, the ones that DLIR just warned claimants about, can be found online at hawaiinewsnow.com. Reporting downtown, I'm Casey Lund for This Is Now.
A lot of folks are wondering about this. Do you still need to wear a mask outdoors? Here's the advice CNN's chief medical correspondent Sanjay Gupta had to give.
Yeah, so let me try and answer it this way. I think that the vast majority of viral transmission, excuse me, is not happening outside. In fact, we put together some of the numbers. We've talked about the fact that overall, if you look at new cases of people becoming infected, fewer than 10% are happening outdoors. And John, you may remember, this is a statistic we shared from before. We're actually looking at viral transmission and finding that it's about close to 19 times less likely to happen outdoors versus indoors. So what are the factors then that make that different? I'd say for the most part, you don't need to wear a mask outdoors. There's countries around the world like Israel that says you no longer need to do that. I think you just got to use common sense here. I mean, the virus is contagious. It doesn't like to be outdoors. It doesn't like to be in the sunlight. But if you are closely clustered together, if there's lots of people in a single area, if you're going to be there for long periods of time, and a very important another caveat is, what is the sort of viral transmission in your area? If there's a lot of virus spreading in your area, a lot of positive tests, a lot of high positivity, you may consider that then if you're going to be in that sort of situation. The real question you're trying to answer, and there's a lot of factors that go into this, what is the likelihood I'm going to breathe in someone else's air? That's basically it. Number of people, the type of setting, obviously indoors versus outdoors, and what is the overall viral spread in your community.
Sanjay Gupta there with that update. We got some breaking news, right, Mark?
Yeah, numbers from the State Department of Health on the latest case count. The state reporting 94 new infections today with 1 additional death. We have a full county-by-county breakdown on our website, hawaiinewsnow.com.
All right, let's turn it over to Guy Hoggy with an update on that weekend forecast.
So we'll all get some nice steady trade winds today, getting stronger starting tonight and holding firm through Sunday, easing up the first part of next week. So it's going to be a beautiful day across the state. Kind of no matter where you are, you'll see a fair bit of sunshine, although leeward sides will see a few more clouds and a few more showers. Now the surf's on the way down pretty much island-wide, except for the east side will be rising a little bit because of those increasing trade winds kicking up the trade wind swell. And because of all the sunshine, UV index will be high at 10. We still are expecting a lot of sunshine over the weekend for leeward areas, but also look for more windward and Mauka showers than we've seen over the next couple of days. And then on Monday, we lose the trade winds with afternoon clouds building up and maybe causing a few afternoon showers. Keep it here on Hawaii News Now. We'll have all your severe weather updates.
So many in the state are eager to travel again, and many folks are eyeing Vegas, myself included. But when will the 9th Island fully reopen again? Lucy Kavanaugh takes us to Sin City.
In Sin City, entertainment and excitement are back. Last March, the coronavirus pandemic turned one of the busiest places on Earth into a ghost town. Las Vegas casinos were ordered to shut their doors, costing thousands of jobs and billions in lost revenue. But a year after the iconic strip went dark, the glittering lights and sounds are once again dazzling visitors. Many tourists feeling safer in rolling the dice. Blackjack tables packed, slot machines paying out.
People want to do business face to face.
The president of the Venetian Las Vegas says daily bookings are exceeding pre-COVID levels. After a year on the rocks, the economic tide seems to be turning.
Tourists are coming back on the weekends, but what's the missing piece?
The missing piece are the business travelers for the conventions and the expo center.
Conventions bring in big bucks and weekday bookings, contributing more than $11 billion in 2019 alone.
Wow, it is huge.
Well, it's 30 acres under roof.
The Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority gave us a tour of its newly expanded convention center, which will host America's first large-scale post-pandemic event in June. CEO Steve Hill says dozens more are on the books.
So conventions are critical for Vegas to come back.
They really are. And without that, we can make it, but we can't thrive.
The new player in town, Virgin, took a gamble opening a property last month during the pandemic. It's the Vegas you know with a safer twist.
This is just one of the many COVID-19 safety measures casinos are putting into place, betting big on a Las Vegas comeback.
Winner. We're completely betting big on the Las Vegas recovery, and frankly, I don't think it's that big of a bet. I think it's a sure thing.
The Vegas jobless rate shot up to 34% last April, one of the worst in the nation, dropping down to roughly 9% in February. But not everyone's cashing in. Thousands of workers who kept the casino resorts operating are still out of work.
Good boy, come here.
Matthew Seaver spent 15 years bartending at Station Casino, but was let go last March.
Never would I thought a year from now we would be still here waiting to get our jobs back.
Others, tired of waiting, are picking up a new trade.
25 coming in.
The CEG Dealer School, which trains aspiring casino dealers, promises jobs to almost anyone who wants to work.
Vegas is making its comeback. The energy here at the school, you can tell right now, a lot of optimism, a lot of positivity. Yeah.
A promising reminder that in Las Vegas, the chips are never down for good. Lucy Kavanaugh, CNN, Las Vegas.
A lot of folks talking about that CNN story online, and I'm very excited about Vegas coming back.
Yeah, the
Safely,
entire
especially.
Vegas experience. It's curious to see how it's going to be developing as we, get through this pandemic. How it's going to be. They did reopen pretty early as everything was happening, but. Yeah.
And limited shows. We were just talking about that in that story. There's none of the big names are quite up and running. No Celine Dion's, Elton John's, anything like that. But some of the smaller ones, like those Cirque shows, are available to watch.
Yeah.
All right, some other changes coming to a big event. The Spelling Bee, the National Spelling Bee competition organizers are adding a vocabulary question and a lightning round tiebreaker in an effort to end with just one winner. A lightning round would only happen if there's a tie at the end of the contest. Contestants would have 90 seconds to spell as many words as possible. Critics argue it takes away from skill and favors speed over memorization.
Yeah, the critics talking about it, it's kind of like what baseball is doing right now with having a runner on second base once you go to extra innings, but I'm actually in favor
They're doing that in baseball?
Yes, during
No
the regular
way.
season, there's a rule now where you start the 10th inning with a runner on second automatically. And so it's in an effort to speed up the games, but in the case of the Spelling Bee, I actually like this adjustment because it does make the event a little bit more exciting, adds a twist of drama. That's always fun.
There's major drama in that event. I always feel so sorry for those kids. Some of them look terrified.
Crushing.
Yeah.
Crushing.
Some other sports news though, right?
Yeah, in our next story, Olympic champion, one of the greatest athletes in the world, Simone Biles, with a big endorsement move. She is leaving Nike and signing a deal with Athleta. She is the most decorated gymnast of all time. Now, Athleta is the sportswear line of Gap. A huge win for the company. I mean, think about that. You sign an athlete away from Nike. She is a 4-time gold medalist, expected to haul in more medals this summer, so some big endorsement deal news. And then also, we did a story on this in the newscast earlier this week, but have you noticed how the prices of household items are increasing?
Yeah.
Specifically, in regard to diapers.
I feel for you, man.
Diaper prices, and yes, as a father of twins here, this affects me personally. Now, diaper prices have jumped nearly 9% over the course of a year. That's according to sales tracker Nielsen IQ. The National Diaper Bank Network says the average monthly diaper bill is $80, and more price hikes are on the way. The increase coincides with spikes in material and shipping costs.
All right, we want to get to some really good news. You know, those 4 space astronauts from SpaceX are on their mission right now to the ISS for a 6-month mission. We got Mark Strassman with much more on that.
The astronauts were met with cheers on their way to the launch pad this morning. They even got a send-off from SpaceX CEO Elon Musk.
Endeavour launches once again.
The international crew, which includes 2 Americans, launched on a mission that's the first of its kind.
We have just passed through max Q.
Around 2.5 minutes after liftoff, already traveling more than 4,000 miles per hour. The reused first stage booster separated. Roughly 7 minutes after that, the crew entered orbit more than 125 miles above Earth, where not long ago they had this to say.
We're a couple hours into the flight, making our second lap around the Earth.
Musk said it's the dawn of a new era in space exploration.
It's hard to believe that we're here doing this, quite frankly. Feels like a dream. It's probably good to have a flight or two under its belt for the booster to have flown, once or twice.
NASA astronaut Bob Behnken can vouch for the recycled hardware. He flew in the same capsule to the space station last year. This time, it's his wife, crew member Megan MacArthur. They have a 7-year-old son, Theo.
What does your son think about all the unusual travel both his parents do for work?
He has had, of course, a long duration exposure to all of this. Of course, he recently saw his father launch and then stay on the International Space Station for 2 months. Now, it's mom's turn and I'm going to be gone for 6 months. And when he talks about it, he talks about, well, he's going to go next.
But first, little Theo and his father will get up early tomorrow morning to watch another magical moment. MacArthur and her crew will dock to the space station right around 5 a.m. Mark Strassman, CBS News, at the Kennedy Space Center.
Mark's got the best job. Mark Strassman, you have a good job too.
Absolutely.
But Elon Musk, for our podcast listeners, his mask choice was a little unusual. You had like a
bandana setup, but a remarkable mission that we're seeing here. And like what you were mentioning, the footage that we're seeing from these missions, true high def.
Yeah, really incredible. Really incredible. So we'll be following that all week next week. So stay with This Is Now. You guys have a great weekend. Mark's going to be back at 1st at 4.